So, picture this. It's my daughter's birthday, a day she's been dreaming about for weeks. And nobody from my family shows up. I mean, they said they couldn't come because of money. Right. But here's the thing. Later, I find out that story wasn't exactly true. What happened next completely flipped everything I thought I knew about my family. Secrets, lies, betrayal. Yeah, all of it. And honestly, you're not gonna want to miss how it all unfolds. Stick around, it gets intense. I was curled up on the sofa, wrapped in a heavy Afghan, feeling like a soggy noodle. Fever had taken over my body, the kind that makes your bones ache and your brain foggy. Mia was at a friend's sleepover, which was a small blessing. Honestly, at least I could be miserable without worrying about her. The room smelled faintly of medicine and tissues, and my phone buzzed again, cutting through the quiet. It was my mother, Vanessa. My throat scratched as I picked it up. "Hi, Mom. Everything okay?" I croaked, wincing at the sandpaper scratch of my own voice. She answered in that familiar, melodramatic drawl she always used when she wanted sympathy. "I'm just calling about little Mia's birthday next weekend." My heart gave a little hopeful flip. Finally. Maybe they'd be able to come. "Oh, great, I was just about to send out the Evites," I said, trying to sound cheerful. "It's just going to be a small thing here at the house. A mad scientist theme." She's so excited. There was a pause, a deep, heavy sigh crackling through the phone. "Oh, darling, that sounds lovely, but I'm afraid we just can't make it. Megan and Archie either." My stomach sank. "Oh, okay," I muttered, voice small, almost disbelief. "Is everything all right? It's just money." "Dear," she whispered, as if confessing a terrible secret. "Things are just so terribly tight right now. Archie's brand deal fell through, and Megan had some unexpected expenses. We just can't spare the gas money for the drive, let alone a gift." I blinked, slowly sitting up, the Afghan slipping from my lap. The drive was 45 minutes. 45 minutes I would have given them gladly. "Mom, you know I don't care about a gift," I said, forcing calm, though my voice tasted bitter. "I'd be happy to send you gas money. Mia just wants to see you. She wants to show you the baking soda volcano she designed." There was a shift in her tone, sharp now, almost offended. No, we can't accept your charity. Mabel, it's too embarrassing. We'll just have to make it up to her another time when things are better. You're so good at managing your money. You probably don't understand, but it's a matter of pride. Pride. The irony was like a bitter pill stuck in my throat. As the financial advisor and sole trustee of the family trust, I knew exactly what tight meant for them. Their discretionary spending had dipped below 5 figures that month. They were living luxuriously, just not on what they called a necessity. I'd been down this road before, long enough to recognize the patterns, the excuses, the shame, the guilt trips. They were all so familiar. And yet, hearing them like this, it stung differently. "Of course, Mom," I said softly, tasting ash in my words. "I understand. Mia will be disappointed, but she'll understand too. Thank you for being so reasonable." "Dear." Her voice brightened immediately. "You are always the sensible one. Give Mia a big kiss from her Nana. We'll talk soon." And then the line clicked, leaving a silence that pressed hard against my chest. I sank back into the sofa, the fever and aches forgotten for a moment. The real sickness wasn't the virus. It was the hollow ache of being the sensible one. the daughter who always understood, always forgave, always took the blame. I curled back under the Afghan, cold not from illness, but from the realization my child had just been shown, in subtle, cruel strokes, that her family could let her down and I had no way to protect her from it. It was the start of a new, sharper kind of awareness, one that would change everything. The week of Mia's birthday was a blur, a mix of low-grade fever, grocery runs, and party planning. I pushed through the exhaustion, determined to make it special. I bought dry ice for bubbling potions, lab coats in her size, and enough baking soda and vinegar to make a chain of little erupting volcanoes. Mia was oblivious to the family drama, bouncing around with her sketches for welcome signs. "Nana, we miss you," she'd written in bright, wobbly letters. I quietly tucked them in a drawer when she wasn't looking. Setting up the decorations alone, I kept catching myself smiling despite the sting in my chest. The posters, the neon test tubes, the messy paint, this was our world. Her excitement made my own fatigue fade into the background, but the ache of absence lingered. My mother and sister, wrapped up in their own lives, had made it clear they wouldn't be here again. And yet, every little preparation, every sprinkle of pink foam, reminded me how much it mattered to me that Mia had this day, fully. Without compromise, I couldn't shake the subtle hints that they might not be telling the whole truth about why they weren't coming. There was a way they spoke about money, with the practiced melancholy, that always seemed a little too convenient. Still, I tried to stay in the moment. I measured out the vinegar, tied the lab coats on the excited kids, and laughed at Mia's squeals when the first volcano erupted, spilling purple foam across the kitchen counter. It was chaotic, messy, and perfect. 10 8-year-olds in tiny lab coats shrieked with delight. They mixed potions, made slime, and climbed over each other in pursuit of sticky fun. Pizza boxes were strewn across the floor, frosting smudges on their noses, and somehow it felt like a victory. I stole glances at Mia's radiant face, glowing with pure joy, and I realized that, despite my disappointment, this was what mattered. When the party wound down, Mia whispered to me as I tucked her in, "I wish Nana and Aunt Megan could have seen my volcano." I nodded, smoothing her hair. "They're busy, honey. Maybe next time." But even as she drifted to sleep, I couldn't shake the feeling that the truth was different from what they told us. They had claimed they couldn't make it because of money, but there was a nagging doubt, a quiet suspicion forming that what they said didn't quite add up. And yet, in that cluttered, sticky, joyful chaos, I felt a small, fierce pride. I had done this, just me, for my daughter. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about appearances. It was about love, presence, and making her world a little brighter, even if the people who were supposed to be there chose themselves over her. And that thought, bitter and sharp, lingered as I finally collapsed onto the sofa, exhausted, but oddly triumphant, the day after Mia's party. I was finally catching a breath, scrolling through social media as a way to unwind. That's when I saw it. Megan's profile picture had changed. No longer a glamorous headshot. It was a group photo her, Archie, my mother Vanessa, and their 2 kids, all beaming from ear to ear. Bright, matching ski suits, snow-covered pines behind them, a luxury ski resort sign looming overhead. The caption, something about a surprise family trip, brand deals, and being blessed. My stomach dropped. My blood turned ice. I clicked into the album, 10, 20, 30 pictures of them on ski lifts, laughing in a hot tub, glasses of champagne raised high. My mother, the same woman who had told me money was tight, was helping Megan's daughter build a snowman. The betrayal hit me like a fist. It wasn't just a lie, it was a performance. A calculated betrayal broadcast for the world to see. I put the phone down, shaking, and then I heard it, small and trembling. "Mommy." I turned. Mia stood in the doorway, her favorite stuffed rabbit dangling from her hand. Her eyes were fixed on the screen, on the bright, laughing faces. She took a small step closer, her little voice quivering. "They went skiing." I swallowed, my throat tight. "Honey, I didn't know." "You said they were poor," she said softly, voice trembling. "You said money was tight." She looked at the screen, then back at me, and the first real, devastating tears of comprehension filled her eyes. My heart shattered. The moment I'd feared, the one I had tried to shield her from, was here. They weren't just absent, they had chosen this over her birthday. "They lied, didn't they?" she whispered. "It's complicated," I said. My voice caught somewhere between anger and sorrow, but deep down, I knew the truth. She was right. They didn't love us, not in a way that mattered. They loved what they got from us, from me, from the trust. I held Mia close, feeling her small body shudder against mine, her sobs filling the kitchen. I couldn't say yes, and I couldn't say no. I just held her, rocking gently, heart aching. As I sat there, an internal shift began, and the sensible daughter, the one who always forgave, who absorbed slights and guilt, was dissolving in her place. Something cold, deliberate, and clear was forming Mabel, the trustee, the one with authority, the one who held the keys to the money they had abused. All the years of managing their wants, of covering up for their irresponsibility, led to this moment of clarity. I moved Mia to the sofa, put on her favorite movie, and made her hot chocolate with extra marshmallows. She curled up, exhausted, but I stayed close, letting her sleep. While my own mind raced, the rage was methodical, almost clinical. This wasn't the hot, messy anger of my sister or the faux drama of my mother. This was the anger of someone who understood the numbers, the patterns, the betrayals, and was finally ready to act on them. Mia murmured in her sleep, something about missing Nana. I kissed her forehead, silent tears slipping down my cheeks. "Me too. Sweetie, me too." And as I watched her, I realized the truth the sensible daughter had been a shield for too long. Now, the trustee would be the instrument of accountability. They had forgotten one crucial thing. They had forgotten who I was. They had forgotten the trust. And they had just set the stage for the reckoning they couldn't even imagine. To understand the betrayal, you have to understand my family. I'm what they call the before daughter. Born when my parents were young, still building Dad's business. We were careful with money. I grew up on a budget, doing chores for allowance, learning how to balance a checkbook before most kids even knew what that meant. Responsibility was the air I breathed. By the time I was 12, I was quiet, studious, and endlessly sensible. Everything was measured, accounted for, and expected to be done properly. Then, 7 years later, came Megan, the after daughter. She arrived when the business was thriving, when money wasn't a concern. The difference was stark. Where I had learned to save, she learned to spend. Where I had learned to wait my turn, She had everything served on a silver platter: private lessons, European vacations, 3 different colleges, countless tutors, and 0 consequences for any failure. Mom reveled in it. Vanessa had always wanted a doll, and suddenly she had one, in the form of Megan, who played the part beautifully: loud, charming, entitled everything that contrasted with my quiet, responsible upbringing. And Mom, she indulged it, encouraged it, celebrated it. I went to college on a partial scholarship, scraping together tuition and working alongside my studies to pay for living expenses. Finance became my focus because it was practical, because it gave me tools to survive in a world where money mattered and responsibility could shield you. Megan, she floated from college to college, major to major, until she finally dropped out and embarked on a year-long trip across Southeast Asia, fully funded by our parents. No effort, just privilege. When Dad got sick, the weight fell on me. His care, the business transition, managing family emotions, everything. I didn't flinch. I handled it. Megan flew in for the last week, cried at the funeral, and immediately asked about the will. That's when the dynamic crystallized me. The caretaker and responsible one, them. The entitled, opportunistic family members who saw Dad's death as a stage for personal gain. My father, a man of meticulous planning, had anticipated this. He left his entire estate in a trust, the Harrison Family Legacy Trust, and he named me the sole trustee. My parents' reactions were predictable. A trustee, Vanessa, shrieked at the lawyer's office. "You're making her our babysitter," I tried to soothe her. "It's a formality, Mom. It's to protect the assets for all of us." Megan crossed her arms, sneering. "Protect us from what? From us does he think we're children?" I said nothing. But the answer was yes. Yes, he did. The trust itself was generous. Monthly stipends for Vanessa and Megan were sufficient to live comfortably. But the rest, the bulk of the capital, the properties, the investments, was under my discretion. I could release funds for legitimate needs like healthcare, education, and home repairs. But lifestyle expenses were up to my judgment. It was a safety mechanism, a way to enforce responsibility. And yet, for a decade, I'd been weak. The constant guilt trips, emergencies, and accusations wore me down. It was easier to approve requests than to fight. A new car for Megan, sure. A kitchen remodel for Mom, fine. Seed money for Archie's failed ventures. Why not? I was essentially paying them to leave me and Mia alone. It was a survival tactic more than anything else. But every approval, every check sign came at the cost of my own peace, my own sense of fairness. Growing up, I'd learned to hide my own feelings for the sake of harmony. I had absorbed slights, avoided confrontation, and carried the weight of the family's chaos like it was my own responsibility. The trust was meant to enforce fairness, to protect Dad's legacy, and to prevent the very patterns I had been trapped in from continuing unchecked. Dad had given me the authority, the tools, and the responsibility. And now, after years of indulgence and subtle manipulation from Mom and Megan, that responsibility had become a weapon I could finally wield with clarity and purpose. Looking back, it was obvious why Dad had done this. He knew the difference between his 2 daughters. He knew who could manage, who could be trusted, and who would squander the privilege given to them. I was his sensible, capable, and cautious daughter, the one he relied on to preserve everything he'd built. Megan and Mom. They were the appetites he had to contain, the ones who would consume without thought if left unchecked. And for years, I had failed at enforcing it. But now, the picture was clear and the ledger was balanced in my mind. It was time to stop being the sensible daughter who forgave everything and start being the trustee who enforced the rules, the one who protected the legacy, and the one who finally recognized that entitlement and love were not the same thing. I sat at my desk, staring at the screen, letting the anger settle into a cold, methodical focus. I knew what I had to do. As a financial advisor and trustee, I had access to tools, networks, and information. I picked up the phone and called a friend in PR and influencer marketing. "Hey, Sarah, it's Mabel Harrison," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I have a question about an influencer named Megan's Sparkle Life. Do you know her?" Sarah laughed, lightly, but there was a hint of pity. "Oh, everyone knows Megan. Why, I'm checking some details for family finances." I explained. "Do you know if she has any real brand deals?" A pause. "Well, awkward. She doesn't, not any real ones. She's a micro-influencer, but her engagement is terrible. Most brands won't touch her. She buys followers, Mabel. It's all performance." I felt a chill crawl over me. So the brand deal she'd mentioned a lie. I asked about the ski resort. Sarah was blunt, highly unlikely, unless it was a trade for posts. Even then, a resort of that caliber wouldn't sponsor her numbers. She implies, she exaggerates, she fakes it. The knot in my stomach tightened. And the trip itself, luxury cabins, new gear, lift tickets, just another expense she and her husband are known for. Not paying vendors. "Be careful," Sarah warned. I thanked her, ending the call with a tight nod to myself. I opened the Trust financial portal. As trustee, I had full access to the accounts, credit cards, and statements. I started with the last 30 days. There it was. Sun Valley Ski Emporium, $4,800 for gear. Summit Peak Lodge, $10,200 for a cabin. Lift tickets, $2,200. A single champagne dinner, $950. My hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from the clarity hitting me like ice water. Over $20,000 spent in 1 week. While Mom had claimed she couldn't spare gas money to see her granddaughter. I went further back 3 months, 6 months, even a full year. Luxury car leases, designer boutiques, life coaching sessions. Steady cash withdrawals that could only be Archie's failed business ventures. They weren't just living comfortably, they were hemorrhaging Dad's legacy. And all while lying, while breaking my daughter's heart. I leaned back in my chair, taking a deep breath. The anger was cold, controlled, precise. This wasn't screaming and flailing. This was strategy. This was recognition. The trap had been set years ago by my father. It existed before me, waiting for the moment I was ready to see it, ready to enforce it. I pulled up my contacts again and called Sarah back, just to confirm a few details, jotting notes as she spoke. Each piece of confirmation, each corroborated fact, solidified the next steps. I wasn't reacting to emotion anymore. I was reacting to truth, to evidence. My father had given me the tools, and I was ready to use them. As I reviewed the statements, I thought about Mia, about the birthday party she had shared with me, oblivious to the lies her family had fed us. The betrayal wasn't just financial, it was emotional. But with clarity came resolve. I could be calm, measured, and entirely in control. They had built their lives on deception and entitlement. Now, their actions were documented, undeniable, and actionable. I made notes, double-checked every figure, highlighted every statement, and mentally mapped out the confrontation to come. Each number was a piece of the puzzle, each entry a small revelation of their disregard for honesty, for family, and for the trust Dad had entrusted to me. I locked the financial portal and stared at the ceiling. The path forward was clear. No impulsive calls, no emotional reactions, no petty revenge, just enforcement. Every deceitful expense, every fabricated story, every act of manipulation had left a trail. And I had the authority, the knowledge, and the evidence to confront them with it. The anger had cooled into purpose. The betrayal, once raw and personal, had become a precise ledger of facts. I was no longer the daughter who quietly absorbed slights and forgave transgressions. I was the trustee, the executor of Dad's legacy, the one with the authority to act. And for the first time in years, I felt an icy satisfaction they had forgotten who I was. But I had not forgotten anything. Tuesday morning arrived, bright and sharp, and I felt a strange calm settle over me. Mia was at school, and I had everything prepared. In the conference room, I had set up a projector, printed the last 6 months of their trust-funded credit card statements, highlighted Article 4, Section 2 from the trust document, and placed a large 8x10 photo from Megan's social media right in front of Vanessa's chair. I was ready. They arrived, fashionably late as expected. Vanessa, Megan, and Archie entered as a unit, like a parade of entitlement. Vanessa looked flustered, Megan bored, scrolling her phone, and Archie with his serious businessman scowl. Mabel. Really, Vanessa started as she pulled off her coat. You dragged us all the way here on a Tuesday. David. What on earth is this about? Is there a problem with the market? Please, have a seat, I said. Voice neutral, calm. David, Dad's lawyer, sat beside me, nodding to acknowledge them. They sat, Archie immediately putting his phone on the table. Vanessa froze when she noticed the photo. What is this? That, I said, is a photo from your ski trip. Looks like you had a wonderful time. Megan smirked, barely looking up. Oh, that. Yes, it was amazing. Archie's new deal is huge. We had to celebrate. You should have seen the cabin. Mabel, you would have loved it. I gestured at the projector. I'm sure, I said, calm but deliberate. $10,200 for the cabin, $4,800 in new ski gear, $2,200 in lift tickets, and $950 for a single dinner. Must have been quite the celebration for Archie's brand deal. Megan's smirk faded. Archie shifted uncomfortably. Now hold on, our finances are our business, he said. Not when you're using the trust's money. Archie, I replied, clicking the remote. The summary of the trust accounts appeared on the wall. Vanessa's face went pale. Mabel, what is the meaning of this? Are you auditing us? I'm performing my legal duty as trustee, I said. Voice cold, calm, a duty I have neglected for too long. The next slide showed a screenshot of Vanessa's text to me. I'm afraid we just can't make it. Money, dear, so terribly tight, can't spare the gas money. Her eyes darted to David, expression panicked. That was a misunderstanding, Vanessa stammered. I didn't want you to feel bad that we had this wonderful trip planned. And you weren't. That you weren't. What, Mom? I asked. voice dropping dangerously low. That you weren't invited, that you were homesick while my 8-year-old was making welcome signs. We were busy. Megan's voice rose, shrill. It's a work trip. That's a business expense. I turned to David. Did you find any evidence of a brand deal for Megan's sparkle life? David cleared his throat. We did not. Our inquiries show her influencing business has no income. In fact, they owe several vendors for previous services. Archie leapt to his feet. This is an ambush. This is slander. You have no right. I have every right. I said, standing, pointing at all three of them. I am the trustee. You are beneficiaries who have been lying. Systematically draining the trust Dad built, while lying to my face, while breaking my daughter's heart. Megan's face turned red. You're just jealous. You've always been jealous. You're a boring accountant in a sad little office. And you are what? Megan. I cut her off. An influencer with no influence. A businesswoman with no business. A 35-year-old living off a dead man's money. Money that I control. Vanessa's composure broke. Mabel. Darling, please, she pleaded, high-pitched, desperate. We made a mistake. We should have been there for Mia. We'll make it up to her. We'll buy her anything she wants. With what money? Mom, I asked. I clicked to the final slide, highlighting Article 4, Section 2, Demonstration of Responsible Financial Conduct. As of today, I am exercising full discretion. Lifestyle stipends for both Vanessa and Megan are suspended, effective immediately. Silence, heavy, sullen. Megan gasped, half laugh, half gasp. You can't do that. That's our money. Dad left it for us. Dad left it in a trust. Megan. David interjected calmly. He put Mabel in charge to prevent exactly this. Her actions are not just permissible, they're her fiduciary duty. Megan sputtered. Fiduciary, you can't just cut us off. We have bills, we have leases. You'll ruin us. You ruined yourselves. Archie, I said. This isn't punishment. It's a consequence. You lied about a brand deal to fund a $20,000 vacation while claiming poverty to your own family. That is irresponsible financial conduct. Vanessa's tears flowed, but terror, not remorse. Mabel, please. My house? The club membership. I can't lose my house. You won't. I said, I'm not a monster, but I am building a new structure. A new case for you? Megan's eyes narrowed. A new case? Yes. A new budget, I said, sliding 3 packets across the table. From today, no more trust-funded credit cards, car leases, or discretionary spending. Submit bills and receipts for necessities, groceries, utilities, insurance, and the trust will reimburse. Nothing else. Megan shrieked. My car. You can't take my car. It's a lease. The trust won't renew it. Affordable options are your responsibility. The stipend covers the necessities only. Archie looked ready to vomit. This is illegal. We'll sue remove you as trustee. David leaned forward. On what grounds she's enforcing the trust is written, protecting assets from beneficiaries who have shown deceit and fraud. No judge would see it differently. Megan tried one last time. What about my work? My brand? I need to travel. I need this lifestyle. It's an investment. I met her gaze, then get a job that provides that income. Retail, food service, they're hiring. Vanessa, still searching for cracks, whispered, You're enjoying this, aren't you? After all these years, finally paying us back no. Mom, I said firmly, the truth finally clear. I'm not enjoying it. I'm done. Done being the sensible one. Done watching responsibility be a lesson for others. Done letting you hurt my daughter. I stood, signaling the meeting's end. David would escort them out. My assistant would send new forms for expense reimbursement. The door clicked. Silent. The confrontation, the reckoning, the shift in power, it was complete. For the first time, justice wasn't delayed or diluted. It was delivered. Calm, deliberate, and absolute. The fallout was immediate and, honestly, almost comical if it weren't so satisfying. The first texts and voicemails poured in like a tidal wave. Megan's furious, rambling business plans. Vanessa's tearful 3 a.m. messages about how poverty would kill her. They called relatives, tried to triangulate, to make me the villain. It backfired spectacularly. My Uncle Ben, Dad's brother, called me with booming approval. "Your father would be proud," he said. "It's about time someone put the peacocks in a pen." That gave me a quiet, smug sense of justice. The real changes, though, were quieter. At home, a new calm settled over our lives. No more bracing for manipulative phone calls or last-minute emergencies. Mia and I found space, time to breathe together. We started adventure Saturdays, little excursions, just the two of us. We hiked in the woods, explored the real science museum where the volcanoes towered 10 feet high, and even spent weekends at the coast, eating ice cream for dinner. Every small laugh, every shared moment felt like reclaiming territory that had been quietly occupied by stress and guilt for far too long. Baking cookies one evening, Mia laughed as flour coated her cheeks. "You're fun, Mommy," she said, beaming. I dabbed a bit of flour on her nose. "Think so, yeah. You used to be sensible, Mommy." "Now you're fun, Mommy." My heart ached with relief. I like fun Mommy a lot better. I told her, and in that moment, it was clear. This was what Dad's legacy was really about, not just money, but the sense of control, fairness, and presence I could now fully dedicate to my child. News from the other side trickled in, bits and pieces from my Uncle Ben. Vanessa had sold her oversized house, downsized to a modest condo, and taken a part-time library job. She had learned to budget. Painfully, yes, but she was adjusting. Megan's story was similar. Her brand collapsed. The leased house was gone, and Archie had left, chasing a new opportunity. Megan eventually moved into Vanessa's condo with her children and found a modest administrative assistant job. For the first time, they were living the reality they had so long pretended to experience. About a year later, the day before Mia's 9th birthday, a small package arrived with no return address. I opened it to find a hand-knitted scarf in Mia's favorite color, blue. Tucked inside was a simple drugstore birthday card in Mom's shaky handwriting. It read, "Happy birthday. Mia, I hope you like this. Made it myself. Love. Nana." Below that, in a different, messier script, was a single sentence, "We miss you." Aunt Megan. I handed the package to Mia. She studied it thoughtfully. Fingers tracing the yarn, the card, the words. She made it. She said, "It looks like it." I said. She wrapped the scarf around her neck. "It's really warm. Mommy." She didn't ask if they were coming to her party or question the past lies. She simply accepted the gift, a small, imperfect offering, and moved on. It wasn't forgiveness, not a reunion. It was a tiny, fragile seed of something new, something cautious, something real. And in our home, life bloomed. The cloud of resentment that had always lingered unspoken dissipated. The small, everyday joys of parenting, the laughter, The spontaneous adventures became our foundation. Mia's happiness was no longer mediated by the deceit of others. I was present in a way I hadn't been before, fully and deliberately, for the first time in her life. Our relationship deepened, strengthened by the space I had carved out, the control I had reclaimed. Occasionally, I'd glance at the scarf, the simple blue yarn looping in hand-knitted perfection, and smile, not at them, not at past betrayals, but at the progress, at the subtle acknowledgement that change is possible. Their lives had shifted, stripped of unearned luxury, forced into reality, and in parallel, our lives, freed from their drama, had become rich in ways money could never measure: presence, joy, love, and security. I looked at Mia, asleep after a day of laughter and science experiments, and felt a profound peace. Dad's legacy wasn't just financial, it was sense, strength, and the ability to protect what truly mattered. The trust had served its purpose, and now it allowed us to live fully, unapologetically, and honestly. And yes, there would be more mad scientist parties, bigger volcanoes, messier experiments, and more ice cream on the beach. But through it all, we had reclaimed our world, our joy, and our right to live without the shadows of entitlement looming over us. In the end, peace returned to our home. Mia laughed more freely, and I finally felt present for her, fully and without distraction. Setting boundaries, enforcing responsibility, and standing up for what's right taught me so much, not just about money, but about family, love, and respect. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. And hey, if this story made you think about your own family or inspired you in any way, go ahead and share your thoughts below. I'd love to hear from you.